Hey everyone, welcome to today's video. My name's Stephanie and today I'm going to be showing you the first launch of Cirque's Treasure Trove holiday shop. Now I know it is super early to be reviewing anything like holiday related, but this year Cirque is going to be launching their holiday shop in a phased approach, and this first launch features some highly requested re-released shades. So as always, I will save more of my thoughts for the end after some comparisons. For now, let's just get into the swatches. So we have a couple of toppers making a comeback. The first is Silver Lining, which came out a few years ago in the Daylight collection, which honestly was one of my favorite Cirque collections. This is a pretty standard silver metallic flaky topper in a clear base. I'm showing it layered here over chiffon, which is my favorite sheer pink, but I'm also going to be showing it over their white and black shades, Carpe Diem and Memento Mori. So you might have noticed that this one had the skinny brush, and that's because I was using my original bottle. The new bottles are going to contain the wide paddle brushes, so no need to worry about that, but either way, the formula was super smooth and easy to work with. The other topper that is coming back is Nimbus, and I am so much more excited about this one because it's just one of my favorite toppers from Cirque. This one actually came out in the same Daylight collection, and it's described as an ultra fine silver micro glitter topper. So I'm sure you can tell the particle size is very, very tiny, so it just adds this beautiful dainty twinkle. And I know this might look familiar to some holographic glitter toppers, but this one is purely silver, so you don't see any kind of rainbow flashes because it's not holographic. I know that might seem crazy or boring to some people to not have rainbows, but I actually really appreciate that this is just silver. Then for the polishes, the first one we have is Lilac Jelly, and this is described as a medium dusty purple. So I would say that this one is a lot more red leaning than it is blue. It almost has this pink or maybe magenta sort of undertone, but it definitely is very purple, and it's just so nice to see since a lot of Cirque's purple jellies are on the cooler side. Even though this one is also described as being dusty, I personally think it's pretty bright and almost punchy in color. So as far as the formula goes, this one had a really smooth, easy to work with formula. It was very even coverage, even on the first coat alone. It obviously is just very sheer because it's a jelly. And as you know, they're not going to reach full opacity no matter how many coats you do, unless it's like 5 or something. But I will say that doing a third coat on this one, I feel like obscured the nail line a little bit more, so it's a little on the milky side. Then we have Royal Jelly, which is described as a deep amethyst purple. So it definitely looks super deep in the bottle, almost like a blackened purple. But as you might know, with these sort of really dark leaning jelly colors, they always look darker in the bottle than it does on the nail. For some reason, these darker shades just tend to have an even more sheer kind of formula where it looks very glassy. So you can kind of see what I mean here by the first coat alone, where it's not really that impressive. Honestly, I feel like it does look a little bit patchy and uneven, and unfortunately I feel like it still kind of looked like that after the second coat. Maybe it had something to do with my application, but I think because this one leans on the more glassy side where it's like a very translucent jelly, I would recommend doing a third coat just to deepen the color, because again, it's not going to cover up your nail line necessarily, but because this one is so dark, it is going to be a little bit more obscured. So I definitely thought it looked a lot better on 3 coats than it did on 2, but it still isn't as deep as it looks in the bottle, which I think is such a shame because I love the almost inky quality that it has, and I wish it just translated better on the nail. So as you might have guessed with the last 2 shades, we're also going to be seeing the return of the Amethyst bundle, which includes those last 2 jellies and Kismet. Naturally, I had to try out some Amethyst nail art, and this was a little bit of a rough first pass. It's been a while since I've done any kind of crystal nail art, and I didn't have a reference or anything. I was just kind of going with the flow, but I started with a layer of Lilac Jelly and then went in with Royal Jelly to add in some darker details, going back in with Lilac to sort of blend in the edges. Then I added a little bit of Kismet, back to Lilac, and so on and so forth, just to sort of create these layers and depth. And while it doesn't really give amethyst, it does kind of give this cool sort of smoky look. So, you know, not exactly what I was going for, but I feel like it still kind of looks cool. But because I was going back and forth with all the colors, it did get a little bit thick, so you want to be careful with that. So I did end up redoing my thumb and then just doing a full hand mani just to kind of practice a little bit more. And again, I don't think I nailed the amethyst look, or at least not how I envision amethyst nails, but they definitely still look cool. It just has this like smoky purple kind of look, which I really love and I think is so fitting, especially with October right around the corner. And the last returning shade that we have is Coronation. Yes, again. This one is described as a violet purple nail polish with a searing red to green unicorn pea pigment. There is also a holographic sparkle in here, so it's similar to Cirque's other dainty hollow shimmer formulas. Unicorn pea is apparently this very elusive pigment that was very popular years ago, also very expensive, and I guess it's even more expensive now since it's out of circulation, but Cirque apparently had another stash, so they did another re-release of the shade. The formula on this one was a little bit on the sheer side, but I found it built up opaque enough for me, at least on 2 coats. There's a little hint of nail line if you look close enough, but it didn't bother me, and the color is definitely beautiful. I do like the shimmer and the hollow sparkle, but I will say that the shimmer isn't searing. Now, moving on to comparisons, we're starting with Nimbus, and I wanted to show this next to Azúcar from the Jarritos collection. That one's another dainty topper, but it's an iridescent glitter mix, so you can see that it's a little bit more colorful, not just silver, and the particle size is a little bit bigger too, so not dupes. I would say that Nimbus is a lot more similar to scattered hollow toppers like Mooncat's Moondust or China Glaze's Fairy Dust. I feel like those are all kind of dupes. So these are more similar because they have that same exact size, I would say. I did 1 coat of each here over black, and you can see that they kind of blend in with each other. I know the difference is really hard to tell in this initial clip, so I included an out of focus clip to show the main difference, where again, Moondust is holographic, so you see more of a rainbow twinkle versus the silver in Nimbus. Then for Lilac Jelly, I wanted to show this next to Ube Jelly, which came out a few years ago. This one's another kind of mid-toned purple, but as you can see, it's more on the blue side. So I thought maybe a closer color would be Berry Jelly, which obviously is a berry-leaning color. It's not as purple, it's a little bit more red or magenta. So I'm going to be showing these side by side in 2 and then 3 coats each. I think in 2, it might be a little harder to tell them apart, but you can definitely tell the difference in 3 coats. So they're definitely not dupes, but I did try to recreate Lilac Jelly by layering 1 coat of Ube over 2 coats of Berry Jelly. I feel like they look pretty similar on camera, but the difference is a lot more noticeable in real life, where Ube Jelly is just a lot more muted. Then for Royal Jelly, I of course have to show this next to Eros Jelly, which was previously the darkest purple jelly that Cirque had in their catalog. I know it looks a lot lighter and brighter than Royal Jelly, but they're actually pretty similar, especially once you put them on the nail, where I would say that they have the same kind of saturation and depth. The main difference between these is that Eros Jelly is more of a red leaning purple and Royal Jelly is more of a blue leaning purple. So you don't need both. I think you can just go with your preference. So I know Coronation is supposed to be this very special polish, but we've seen these red shimmers in a purple base before. The first one that I wanted to show this next to was ILNP's Hallucinate from the Trapped collection a few years ago, and here it is also next to Potion Polish's Spice. Again, both polishes being these red shimmers in a purple base. The purple bases are slightly different though, where Hallucinate is a lot more blue leaning than both Coronation and Spice. Spiced is also a bit darker, and it does have a hollow flaky as well, so that does match Coronation since Hallucinate doesn't have hollow. But the real difference is when you see them in more extreme lighting, where again, the main draw with Coronation is supposed to be the unicorn pea pigment, where it shifts from red to green, but it's a lot more subtle compared to the shimmer in Hallucinate. So that wraps up my swatches and comparisons for Cirque's first launch of their holiday shop. As always, I would love to know your thoughts on this release because generally I am happy to see these shades back. Nimbus is definitely one of my favorite toppers from Cirque, which I feel like is not surprising if you know me and my love for like dainty kind of finishes. It is just so pretty, and I just rarely share it because I feel bad that you can't get it. So I'm happy to see that one back. Silver lining, don't care too much for since we've seen other silver flaky toppers on the market. And then for the Amethyst bundle, I was so excited to see those back because I feel like I've been waiting for years for them to be re-released. You may remember last fall, they brought back their tortoise set jellies, and then I think in the spring of last year is when they brought back their sea glass jellies. And I want to say all these sets were originally released in like 2020, maybe 2019, and I'm just a big fan of them. Like, I love the idea of having these curated nail art sets using their jellies, especially for these like crystal kind of looks. And I was so surprised that it's taken them so freaking long to bring these back, because you always hear that purple is like such a popular nail polish color, and we've seen Cirque release like purple jellies in the years in between. So I don't know why they didn't just bring these back sooner, but I am happy that they're here finally, and I have royal jelly in my collection after wanting it for so long. Then as far as Coronation goes, I kind of have no words about seeing it come back for like the 4th or 5th time since last December. It hasn't even been a whole year. Like, don't get me wrong, I do think it is a pretty polish, and I was initially excited to see it come back last December, but it sold out so fast and I just never ended up sharing it because I felt bad that it was a polish, you know, you couldn't get anymore. But then months later, Cirque brings it back, and then maybe 2 or 3 months after that, they bring it back again. So it's kind of weird to see like how much they have, because I could have sworn Unicorn Pea was no longer being produced. Like, it's been years since it's been on the market. And I understand that some brands might have like a stash, you know, that they've been like sitting on. And from what I remember, Cirque said that this version is a little bit like altered, where there is Unicorn Pea, but it is not like the same amount as the original Coronation. But either way, I'm just put off by the many re-releases, especially within like less than a year time frame. I feel like that just loses all of the hype for this polish, because again, I do think it is pretty. Not $18 pretty. That is definitely a high price tag that I think is only justified if you're like a Cirque collector or something, or you're just, I don't know, if you really love this specific polish. But I feel like these days the Unicorn Pea hype has just died down ever since it stopped being produced, and even in all those years in between, we've seen so many new pigments and shimmers that are basically like Unicorn Pea adjacent, because again, I don't know what ILNP uses in their Hallucinate polish, but as you saw, it is like a red to green shifting shimmer, a lot more intense than Coronation, but it's not listed as being Unicorn Pea, and it's $10 on the website. So yeah, you'll have to let me know what you think of that one, or just any of the other shades that are being brought back. And lastly, before I go, I did want to share an update regarding my little rant at the end of my last Cirque video. If you missed it, they basically had edited a Swatches photos, and it just is egregious. Like, their photoshopping, I think, is misleading because it just alters the look of the polish so much, and that's just not what you're gonna get. So I basically emailed them to express those concerns and kind of just asked them to stop doing that moving forward, because I genuinely feel like it's done their brand image so much more harm than good. And unfortunately, I feel like they just kind of doubled down in their response, where they explained to me like why they Photoshop. So it's very similar to their response in one of the comments where somebody asked like, why did they Photoshop them? So to me, it just read as like, we're gonna continue doing this because that's just what we do. And they did say that they do have these, you know, other resources on their website, like the swatch video and the reviews, you know, to help customers really get an understanding of how the polish looks. So that was unfortunate. I was hoping that they would have seen just how much backlash that they got in those comments and reconsider, you know, their practices, because obviously a lot of people are not happy with them. As an affiliate myself, I definitely feel very conflicted with working with Cirque because I don't agree with what they're doing, but I did see a lot of comments saying that they appreciate that I am receiving their PR because you can trust my videos, and that means a lot. So it's unfortunate that they want to continue doing this and not seemingly listen to the feedback that they've gotten from a lot of their customers and the people that they work with. As far as I'm aware, I'm still on Cirque's PR, so I will continue to share like their upcoming releases and of course always give my honest opinions on everything. But yeah, just make sure, you know, you double check, cross-reference, watch other review videos, just do your due diligence since you can't really rely on their swatch photos on their website. I know that was a long outro, but thank you so much for hanging out with me today. I hope you have a great rest of your day, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.